On Courtside Forever, I love talking to parents who have kids who are in youth sports. Obviously, I am a dad. I'm a parent who has kids in youth sports. I coach youth sports. And of course, even in my first episode of Courtside Forever, we talked about youth sports and the problems that faces our kids. But for parents, it's also really difficult. And I know that if you're trying to get your kids the best coaches and the best programs, it can be really difficult to know which ones are which. It's difficult to even find where these programs are located. And today's guest on Courtside Forever is changing the way that's done in soccer. And I'm thrilled to bring in this conversation. I learned so much just about soccer programs, travel ball, you name it. I learned a ton in this conversation, and I know you will too. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of Courtside Forever, because as parents, we've got the best seats in the house. Let's enjoy it. All right, today we've got a real life soccer mom on Courtside Forever. And no, I'm not just talking about the merch and things like that. Our guest is a longtime soccer player, having played well into her 20s. And today she is a proud soccer mom, a team manager, and founder of Soccer Unleashed, which is designed to help all kids at all levels find their love for soccer. Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to introduce you to Casey Lewis. Casey, how are you today?
I'm fabulous, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Oh, thrilled to chat with you. Anytime we get to talk about kids and sports and parenting, like that is, quite frankly, that's what Courtside Forever is all about. So I'm a big fan of it. And Casey, you fit the bill of everything that Courtside Forever is all about. So when we got connected, obviously I was such a fan of your work. And again, thank you so much for chatting with me. So to kick things off, I want to start with a big one. And you've been involved in youth sports for decades. But over time, expectations, certainly for youth sports, have, they've seemed to grow a little more seriously in recent years. I don't know if I'm just imagining that, but
Absolutely.
they seem really serious. So as someone who works in this space, my question for you is, how do you know when your kid is truly ready for travel or even competitive soccer?
That's a good one. That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. We've been on both sides. My family, from rec soccer to travel soccer, and making that move is definitely something that needs to be considered. All the different aspects that you have to consider for that decision. The big thing is evaluating whether or not your child has an interest. That's always number one in my book, mostly because there is a commitment behind it. They might miss birthday parties. They might miss activities and such like that, or times with their friends when they move to travel soccer. And that becomes something that affects their overall life. And they have to really want to play travel soccer and want to go to that next level and have that commitment and drive. So that is where I would start with any child. But then as a family, you need to look at the commitment level. Does it work within your family structure? How does that affect the other kids in your family? The time and the money that you have to put to that as well. And it does get more intense as your child develops and gets better. The higher level you go in travel soccer is a higher commitment. So those are the two big ones that I would look at before I moved my child from rec to travel or an academy commitment level, for sure.
Yeah, it's different, and you can speak to it better than anybody. This past weekend, my family and I, we went to an AAU basketball game. I'm very involved in basketball, and my kids play rec. I love rec basketball, but a friend of hers started playing AAU, so we're like, oh yeah, they invite us to a game, like we'll go. And yeah, it's a little more intense than rec, and there's a lot of travel, and the costs associated with it are high. Are parents coming to you essentially saying like, Casey, what do I do about this? Like, are you kind of a consultant for your friends or maybe other people in your community?
Yes. My daughter currently plays for ECNL team. And it was funny that you brought that up. This weekend, Mother's Day weekend,
Yep.
we also had a baptism that we were missing. We were in Greer, South Carolina for their
Mhm.
showcase. So we
Mhm.
did miss a family event, and we also missed, Mother's Day. I was on the field, which is very
Mhm.
typical of any academy or travel team. So it's those kinds of things that I'm talking about. But during that, time, I've had other people in our neighborhood be like, "Oh, I know you're a soccer family. This is where my kid is at. What do you think?" So
Yeah.
my big and I start out with the same question. Does your kid have an interest in that kind of
Mhm.
commitment level? Do they wanna go further with their skills in their team? Are they ready from a skill perspective? Those kinds of things. Because nowadays, I'm finding that some clubs will, take you on a travel team, but you'll be at the 3rd or 4th or 6th level.
Mm.
Unfortunately, some clubs do that, and it's kind of the same as rec level, but yet you're not getting the benefits of the travel and the money and the time and commitment. So there's different things to
Mm.
think about, like I said earlier. But
Okay.
yes, I do often field that question from
Yeah.
families.
Oh, I bet. It's so funny you mentioned the Mother's Day thing because I was just at a birthday party this weekend as well. And I was talking to a friend of mine who her son had a baseball game and it was, the day before Mother's Day. And she was like, I had to cart the kids out there and it was hot and they brought us all out there. And I was like, that sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like the exact opposite of what most moms would actually want for Mother's Day. But she was like,
Right.
well, I don't think they really cared about that. So, it's how it goes.
It
Um,
sure is.
Now, there is a big difference between skill and interest for sure. So, in terms of really what you've seen in soccer, like how do you balance your kids' talents with their actual passion for the game?
Mm, that's great. Yeah, that's a great question. So, um talent-wise, I kinda go off of what they think. So, I played soccer, so
Hmm.
I could see the talent, and I find that
Yeah.
I'm probably sometimes more realistic than other parents in terms of what they think level their kid should be at. So, I
Hmm.
think that's hard to judge, it's very hard to be biased with your own kid. Um, I have a different perspective because I played and I coached and those kinds of things, but most
Yeah.
parents, have a hard time judging that. So, in the past, even though I feel like I can judge it, I've always asked for other people's opinions in terms of the coach or, a friend that's a coach, not necessarily the current coach,
Mm.
is a good person to talk to that you say, "Hey, give it to me straight. What do you think? Is Johnny ready for travel? What
Yeah.
kinds of skills should he be working on to get there? Because Johnny really wants to get to a travel team."
Yeah.
But it's seeing really gauging the commitment level, I really think, from the child in terms of, I had one child, I have 3 kids, all of which played soccer. I had
Hmm.
one that, said he wanted it and wanted to play, and he was a good player, but he never touched a ball when he was off the field. And I
Yeah.
think that's a real good indicator of that. And then the second child I have, who I think came out wanting to play soccer. She, touches the ball all the time. She really is dedicated. She's like, "When am I playing soccer again? Can I play futsal, and can I go to this training?" So I think those are gauges, for talent for sure, and also passion and grit if they
Yeah.
want it. Does
Yeah.
that answer
Oh,
the question?
Oh, 100%. Those are great
Absolutely.
call outs because like I mentioned, I coach rec basketball. So again, it's different. You have some kids who, like I've seen, I'm like, that kid is at least going to play college, like, it. And then there are other kids that I'm like, this kid, I don't think has ever seen a sphere, let alone a basketball in their life or a soccer ball or
Right.
anything like that. And I love working with all the different kids, but it's funny the different parents who have certain expectations for kids. And I always I tell the parents, I tell the kids, you probably said the same thing. Like, I have these kids maybe 3 hours a week, maybe like 2 hours of practice,
Mhm.
one's a game. And in the game, you're playing probably 20 minutes out of the hour. So, there's not a lot of time. So, if you want to continue to grow and get better, like you mentioned, you've got to be able to do some things outside of here. Like, it's not enough to come to the practices, do it well, and kind of go home. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's gotta be the motivation from the kid too. It's
mm,
one thing to say, "Hey, let's go outside," and that's good. I think that's a great parenting approach, but, it's gotta sometimes you gotta see if it comes from them too. "Hey, I wanna go
yeah,
outside. Can you help me with my headers? Can you pass the ball to me?" It could be as simple as that for the
yeah,
child.
yeah.
So, that's important cues to look at as well.
Oh, for sure. Casey, that's so good. Now, we've talked about kind of like the family aspect. I want to dive into it a little bit more. Now, the
Mhm.
travel schedules, they can be brutal, not only in terms of the time, but certainly even the money that is spent on traveling and tournaments and snacks and gas
Yes.
and all the different things. So what are some of the hidden costs that families might not necessarily expect when joining a travel team? And how do you personally keep it affordable?
Yeah, those are oh, yeah. So that is a big one, cost. So I
Hmm.
am pretty frugal myself.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that I do to try and cut back. But there's things like, for instance, when you travel, you'll go out to dinner with the team. So those are added costs depending on whether or not you like to eat out a lot or not. I
Yeah.
personally will pack coolers and I bring
Mm,
my snacks. I bring the drinks. I bring a giant jug of water.
I
I don't
love
really
it.
like hotel water. Ugh. So I bring a giant
Fair
jug of
enough.
water. Yeah, I'll bring lunch for the car so we won't stop at the fast food. That not only helps your nutrition, but it also helps with your pocketbook. So things like that too. It's the gas, it's the food on the run, it's the team events that usually happen during it. So it's not just the soccer. And then there's just sometimes little fees here and there, or like contributing to gifts, obviously, which anyone feels good about.
Yeah.
But and then of course the uniforms and the gear and the shin guards and the cleats, and so a lot of that really, really adds up. I really try to focus on saving money while we travel,
Mm,
which is, the food portion of it, carpooling with another family, and if you feel comfortable with another family, staying in the hotel with another family,
okay.
those kinds of things. And I suggest that everybody joins every point system they can, because you never know
Yes.
when those points are gonna come in handy. This past weekend, I stayed for free in a hotel
Ah.
because of the so for 3 nights, I had paid nothing, 0,
Uh.
because I had signed up for every hotel rewards program possible, every airline, every rental car that I've used in the past, and I
Mhm.
literally sit there and I pick and pull any kind of points I can use for any trip just to cut those costs down.
I love it. I knew my wife was gonna love this conversation, just the fact that she loves soccer. Like, I really enjoy soccer. Like, she
Mhm,
grew up playing it, and I
mhm.
played it a little bit, but not nearly like she did. Um, but the points conversation, like, she
Mhm.
is going to love this conversation. Like, I already do, but I know
That's
she's
great.
gonna love it, so I appreciate that, especially the points.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
for you, in terms of travel, before I move on to the next thing,
Okay.
what is the furthest that you have traveled for youth sports?
Seattle. So I live in Georgia, and, we made the playoffs, and we went to Seattle.
What, the Seattle?
So that was
Wow.
a big, huge trip, and I have to tell you, I was able to use my points for the
There you
airline,
go.
otherwise it would've cost me $1,600 to fly out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy, and that's really the other aspect of considering travel or not to consider travel is the
Yeah.
financial. It really could be a burden, and I know a lot of people can't probably afford that much. It really does add up. So there are regional teams versus national teams, so it depends on, you could still go up in level and go to travel,
Yeah.
but then you can still look at where does that team travel to, which could
Yeah.
help you. The lion's share of our travel is just driving,
Okay.
and I'm okay with driving like 8 hours, 9 hours,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
sometimes I do that just to save that cash.
Yeah. Oh, that is eh, just your kids, the athletes that you work with, everybody's lucky to have you. I'll say that. And now, as we mentioned earlier, you've been involved with soccer for a long time, and throughout your years, you've worn hats such as you've been a player, you've been a coach, team manager, and obviously your parent. So, how have these roles all combined? How have they shaped the way that you see youth sports today?
So I have been on, all the different sides of the fence
Yeah.
perspective. Um, I can tell you that I've seen the sport change a lot in terms of its intensity, even from
Hmm.
when I was small. So when I played, it was, rec soccer and basic, higher levels, but not the levels that we're seeing today and the intensity that people are seeing today. Kids are getting involved younger, and unfortunately, they're being asked to not verbally, but through wanting to improve and develop, to commit at a younger age and
Yeah.
to commit to more intense schedules that really, I think, is sometimes detrimental to kids, especially that young.
Yeah.
Um, and I hear parents that are parents of like 8, 9, 10-year olds talking about like, "Ooh, well, I need to move a better club and I need to level up and she needs to travel and she needs to do this and she's got to train every day." And you see it on Instagram, like, "Oh, the 45th day in a row she's trained and she's 10."
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
lot. Unfortunately, I love the sport a lot,
Yeah.
and, it's a huge part of what we do, and I know women's sports in general and women's soccer is really top of mind for people, but it's the pressure of starting early and being intense at such an early age that I worry about, because when they get to 16, they've missed so much of their childhood, and at
Hmm.
that point, you're seeing a lot. I think girls are dropping off at a 50% higher rate than boys are in terms of dropout.
Wow.
And a
Wow.
lot of the times it's that they wanna spend time with friends, they wanna do other things, and they haven't experienced certain things, and they've missed a lot, and I worry about the 9, 10, 11-year-olds committing that early. I had a friend, actually, a short story, her daughter was very good at soccer, and she played for many, many years, and she got to 15 years old, and she asked her dad, she's like, "I really just don't wanna play this summer. I just wanna take it off. I wanna spend time with my friends. I wanna go to the pool. I wanna do this, I wanna do that." He said no,
Mm.
unfortunately,
Hmm.
and she quit.
Hmm.
And not saying that parents would normally do that, but just there's certain things that we need to be aware of and watch for those signs. So that's and I think that starts at 8, 9, 10, not
Yeah.
when they're 16,
Yeah.
to have that balance. So I do have a little bit of a fear of that for youth soccer, but it is growing by leaps and bounds, and I think that's
Oh.
where a lot of the pressure comes from.
Yeah, I'd be curious, and by no means am I smart enough to even understand this conversation, let alone lead this conversation. But like the amount of injuries that happens with like younger athletes, I'm not as aware, admittedly, in like
Yeah.
soccer and some other sports, but I know in basketball, like there seems, and I could be wrong, there seems to have been bigger, more like catastrophic injuries for younger players at a pretty alarming rate. And I'm just curious how, again, this is a terrible question for me as a host to ask you because it's more rhetorical, but I'm just curious how all of this it was starting at such an early age, how it's going to affect them long term, just in terms of their physical health too. That's something I'm really, really fascinated about. Like, have you seen like a higher level of injuries maybe with some of the athletes that you work with?
Um, Not really. I don't know a lot of the younger girls at this point, that are playing, but I have heard that injuries are becoming earlier and earlier, and that's probably
Yeah.
related to the overuse, and we gotta be really careful, and as they grow and they're going through their growth spurts, a lot of people have, the growth issues with their growth plates, and they just have pain that they have to work through. But yeah, I mean, we have a girl on our team right now that just went through major, major knee surgery, and she's
Mm,
14. And
wow.
apparently, this is like the 3rd time that she's had an issue with her, like a significant issue with her knee that required physical therapy, and she's 14.
Yeah.
So I think that really speaks to what I said earlier about the intensity and the training too much at such a young age. But I'm not an expert in this field. It's more of me just
Yeah.
noticing on what I've seen. But I
Mhm.
do really try personally for my own kids, and the one that I have that plays ECNL is, "Okay, you're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
I have to tell her,
Yeah.
which talks to, her commitment and talent, but I'm like, "N" and, I remember last summer I said to her, I'm like, "We've got 2-week break," which is unheard of. "I got
Mhm.
a 2-week break. You're not touching a soccer ball. I don't
Yeah.
want you to run. I don't want you to do I want you just to stretch, maybe do a little agility stuff if you really have to." I said, "But at this point, nothing." And I think
Yeah.
those forced breaks are good for them to help their bodies really recover, especially as they're going through puberty and getting older, and all that affects their growth.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's really important as well.
Oh, big time, big time. Now, earlier you mentioned, that your kids they've all had different soccer journeys. So my question for you is, like, how do you stay present and supportive of each kid without really falling into the comparison game that, quite frankly, let's be honest, a lot of parents fall into?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's trying to really focus on the individual because they are so different, and
Hmm.
3 of them took 3 different paths. Completely. So one big advice I can say to all parents is the journey is different for everyone. It's a long journey and things change very quickly. So you could be a star player and then the next year people grow and they change and they develop and your player's struggling to get minutes. It's happened. I've seen it. So I had one real quickly. My one son he was mostly a rec player
Hmm.
and then he did transition to that travel in high school and didn't like it. He just thought it was too much. He was more about the fun and the
Yeah.
engagement part of it, and it was too much stress for him that he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So he actually stopped playing.
Mhm.
And then I have a middle child who, like I said earlier, he played all the time on the field and he loved it and he played. He was a good player, but didn't want to touch a ball outside the field. So while he advanced, it wasn't as probably as high as he then eventually wanted. And then I had the youngest who, started with a soccer ball when she was tiny and hasn't let
Hmm.
go of it since. So who has gone kind of the furthest in terms of level. But just as long as they enjoy it, looking at the enjoyment piece is really, really key. And finding out and listening to what do you want? What commitment do you want? Where do you want to be? Do you want to go to play in college? Or do you just want to play around with friends? There's literally so many different personalities, I think, with soccer players, and parents need to be aware of which one is their kid.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That answer was great. In part it was great because I felt like you led directly into my next question for you, which you may have already answered it to be totally honest. But there are a lot of pressures in competitive sports. I mean, we talked about it, we've dealt with it, we've seen it. So how do you keep soccer fun in your house?
Mm.
Even when things start to get a little serious.
Good question, Ryan.
Mm, mm.
It's hard. It's not easy to do that. I think
Yeah.
it's really important to include free play. Soccer is very structured in terms of, you have a coach and they're directing you and you're on you're training, and then in the games they're, again, directing you and stuff like that. I found that other areas of play has brought enjoyment. Like, let's go to a pickup and you just
Mm,
walk on and you play with friends, whoever it is, you meet at a park, those kinds of things. Futsal has been huge for my kids in terms of keeping the joy. It's just
mm.
a more intense game, but it's so much more fun for them. So I think you can incorporate soccer in different activities, but it doesn't have to be that intense you must perform soccer. It can be the freedom of running around with their friends at the park or the pickups or something like that. And that's how we
Yeah.
try and keep the enjoyment in it.
Yeah.
And then also the buddies, like the friends that they meet at soccer, that they build those relationships with, and that will last a very long time. Those relationships we try to foster through, playing outside. Like, hey, why don't you invite a couple of your team members over to have a sleepover? Or let's go to lunch or dinner with them. Those kinds of things, I think, bring enjoyment to them on the soccer field as well as off.
Yeah. Oh no, that is so good, especially off the field. Some of my favorite memories are with friends who I played sports with growing up, but like I don't know, doing dinners or like birthday parties or anything like that. It was just like the off court enjoyments was I don't know, sometimes more enjoyable than the on court, quite frankly.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
just like those memories, and I don't know about you, but like I still keep in touch and I'm still friends with I don't know, like, I think the majority of my friends today are people I played youth
Hmm.
sports with, whether it be track and
Yep.
field. Some of my best friends I did track and field with, basketball, all the things. So I love that you touched on that. Now, as a team manager, as a coach, I can only imagine the stories that you have, the kids that you've seen, just out there on the soccer field. So you've dedicated your life to Soccer Unleashed and everything in terms of helping other people enjoy sports. So my question for you is like, what was it about sports in general, soccer specifically, that made you want to start Soccer Unleashed?
So that's a great question. As a parent, I found that it was sometimes difficult to find the right opportunities for my kids, when they wanted to strive and be better or be involved and such like that. It was, I spent some time like popping around from website to website looking for different things or social media feeds and then you'd be like, "Wait, where did I see that again?"
Hmm.
And trying to find that. And then there was always those whispers on the sidelines of like, "Oh,
Yeah.
did you hear about?" Like, "Did you hear about and did you know?" And then you hear like, "Oh, how did she get invited to that?" Or "How did she learn about that?"
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel like, "Oh, I wish my daughter knew that," or "Wish my son was asked to do that." And I think that happens a lot. I feel like there's a lot of bias sometimes towards standout players, so that if you have, one or two fabulous kids on the team, that's great. But there's a lot of other players on there that are very solid players that also
Hmm.
deserve those opportunities as well. So my goal was to expose those opportunities and have those listed in one spot, not on multiple sites, so
Yeah.
that parents can go easily search and say, and then figure out what is the best thing for my child, but at least have access, at least know what's out there.
Yeah.
And I really found a lot of that was hidden when I was personally struggling to find it. So
Yeah.
I sat down one day and I just started building it, and it's been great. We have lots of visitations, lots of people on our site looking for opportunities, and I know of a lot of people that have used them. So I'm just so happy to be helpful. It's such a hard journey, and anything I can do to make it easier with the website is really my goal.
Yeah, honestly, it's so cool. Just like in terms of like what you have for soccer players and parents, what you have for coaches and team managers, for clubs and leagues, trainers and vendors. Like, it's an unbelievable website. Is this? I know when I first got connected with you, I saw a lot of East Coast. Is that primarily where it's based? Is there? I'm in California, so a
Right.
lot of our listeners are going to be kind of West Coast based, but I probably got someone on the East Coast as well. So, how far does Soccer Unleashed reach?
Right now, the opportunities and such are just the East Coast, but we are adding a new feature relating to guest playing, which will be nationwide. So that is something that I also struggled with, and I'm addressing that on my website as well. Again, to make it easier for
Yeah.
parents and players to find those opportunities that are really going to help them reach whatever goal that they have. And
Yeah.
if it's just having fun and doing a couple things, that's great. If it's college or if it's, national team, that's also fabulous. So that is a feature coming soon, and that is a national rollout. Right now, the opportunities themselves are just East Coast, just because at this point it's just me and one other person. So we want to make
Mhm.
sure we can service those people effectively in those
This is
areas
so cool.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so cool. I can't wait to share this. It's one of those things that when we first got connected and I was looking at the website and I was like, this is genius. Like this is literally
Thank you.
genius. So I'm sure anybody who comes across it probably feels the same, but I was just yeah, blown away by it. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. I really appreciate that. It's
of
it's it's definitely
course.
my heart and soul, and I really, really just wanna be helpful as a service to parents because I get it. I know what they're going through.
Yeah, no, you totally are, and I think one of the final questions I have for you, not the final question, but one of the final questions I have for you is, like, youth sports is interesting, but ultimately there's got to be a goal somewhere, whether it's to have fun, whether I don't know, some people have all sorts of goals. So for you and for your
Mhm,
family and for your programs and everything that you're part of, what does success look like for you as a soccer parent? Maybe not in terms of wins, but
mhm.
just in terms of how your kids grow throughout the sport.
Yeah, I think success as a parent comes from helping them to achieve whatever level they're wanting,
Yeah.
and where they wanna be, and for them to really feel good about themselves. I also think there's a lot that players can learn through sports, not just soccer, but all sports in terms of responsibility, accountability, being a team, member, being a good team member, being an
Yeah.
encourager, a supporter, those kinds of things, and even down to other life skills in terms of, when packing packing for a trip. One of the things that I offered on Instagram at one point was teach your kid how to pack for themselves.
Mm,
Those are life skills that you can intertwine with soccer that helps them become a better person, a more, responsible, human being, those kinds of things. So success for me really is, are they happy? Number one.
mhm.
Did they achieve whatever level that they wanted to achieve, and how can I help them get there? And then to make them well-rounded as a person, where they're learning the skills they need to just, cope with ups and downs of life and to get through life, successfully.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I can see why you've been successful because that's your mindset,
Mhm,
and you've done it. And I can
mhm.
certainly tell. So I'm just so excited to be connected with you and learn, a lot more about Soccer Unleashed and everything you're doing. This is going to be so cool to follow. Now for my final question, I will say on Courtside Forever, I would love to ask one final question that's really geared towards my guests. So obviously I have one that is geared towards you. Now, you're a soccer mom and you clearly know the game incredibly well on a player level, as a parent level, as a coach level. So I'll ask you if you could have one soccer player coach your athletes or your
Ooh.
kids for one season, one full season. We're talking all the practices, all the games, post game, pre game, all those different things. Who would that person be?
Ooh. Um, that's a hard one. I probably would I know this is probably obvious that most people would want that. I would pick Emma Hayes.
There we go. There
Yeah,
we go.
she's I'm just in awe of her, and not only from the turnaround that she's done with that team, bringing it to the next level. I mean, she walked in and then won championships.
Yeah.
It's just amazing what she did in such a short period of time, and it's not even just that. I've seen the videos of her talking to her players, in the training room, they have online, and then, there was a little short video going around of what she had said. I forget who the player was, but, "Hey, what would your 10-year-old self say to yourself right now?" And the player's like,
Mm,
"Have fun," and she's like, "Go have fun." It's just a nice, refreshing approach to
yeah.
it. It looks like she brought the love of the game back to her players, and looks for talent in different places and gives those
Hmm.
opportunities to players that never ever went to an ID camp just because she thinks they have potential. So,
Yeah.
and it's kind of what I'm trying to do is give those opportunities to people that, that aren't like the standout player, but still diamond in the rough and have that potential to succeed. So she is really the one I would pick just because of how she conducts herself, how she treats her players, and really the amazing things that she's done.
That's what it seems like. I wasn't A, that's an amazing answer. B, I wasn't familiar with Emma Hayes before really before the Paris
Yeah, me
Olympics.
either.
But then yeah, just like really watching the team, like the young team kind of come up and take the reins and just yeah, I mean win the
It's
gold. I mean
yeah,
that was just
unbelievable.
amazing. Amazing. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, I love it. Well, Casey, where can the people find you? I want everyone to be able to follow your work, hear about what you're doing. So, I'll give you this opportunity to plug yourself. Where can the people find you?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
So our website is, soccerunleashed.com, very simple and straight ahead. And there is, I recommend, and the tab that's mostly visited is it says opportunities, and that
Hmm.
is our complete listing of hundreds and hundreds of opportunities, that people can filter and find, by age group, by location, by type of event you're looking for. So it's highly filterable, easy, and everything's in there for you to find in your local area along the East Coast right now. Like I said, we'll expand. But that's soccerunleashed.com. And then we are also on Instagram. And those handles are a little bit different for Instagram and Facebook. It's soccer opportunities um, Unleashed instead of just Soccer Unleashed. So it's Soccer Opportunities Unleashed on both Instagram and Facebook. And I post a lot on there and some advice and information and blogs that are
Yeah.
really helpful, I think, to the parents as well.
I love it. I mean, it's been super helpful to me. My youngest, she's really good at soccer. She played a little bit, and then she was like, "Oh, I'll do something else." We're kind of like you. Like we're not trying to push it if we don't have
Right.
to, but everyone watched her out there, and she was 4 or 5. People watching her, they're like, she's good. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping we signed her up for this summer, so she's gonna be back playing and having fun with it. So I'm definitely gonna be following your work and learning a little bit,
That's awesome.
or a lot of it, just about it. But Casey, I cannot thank you enough for being a guest on Corsat Forever. It's been a joy connecting with you, and I just, genuinely is so excited to continue to follow your journey. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed speaking to you as well and sharing some information. And it's really been a great talk. So I appreciate your time.
Likewise.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here for another episode of Courtside Forever, where our goal is to ensure that parents enjoy the best seats in the house. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend or two, and feel free to reach out with any comments or questions. I'm your host, Ryan Rucker, and I appreciate you being here. Take care.